Chosen one. The moment someone decided to destroy you, they signed their own professional and spiritual eviction. Your stillness has become their greatest terror, because your enemies believe you are a supernatural curiosity in living form. Spells do not work on you. You didn't have to lift a finger. Your very existence neutralized their malice. There was a time when you moved through the world quietly, not invisibly. You were never invisible, but quietly. You were not trying to be seen. You were not performing for anyone. You were simply being exactly who you are, feeling everything deeply, seeing things in people that they had never shown you, knowing things without being told, and moving through rooms in a way that left something behind after you walked out. You were not doing any of it on purpose. That is the part that matters most. You were just being yourself, and that alone was already too much for certain people to handle. You gave without calculating the return. You showed up when people needed you without keeping a ledger of what you were owed. You loved in a way that was specific, genuine, and consistent. People recognized it, but not all of them recognized it with gratitude. Some recognized it with envy. Some recognized it with the particular cruelty that belongs to people who see something they cannot create and decide to destroy it instead. You did not see it coming. You were not built for suspicion. You were built for depth. And depth, when it is unguarded, becomes an open door for the wrong people. So they came in. One by one, over time, they positioned themselves close to you. They studied the architecture of your heart, what mattered to you, what moved you, what kept you awake at night. They stored all of it away, not out of love, out of strategy. The very qualities they planned to use against you were the same qualities that made you untouchable. Your depth made you difficult to read accurately. Your genuineness made their lies feel hollow in comparison. Your consistency quietly exposed their inconsistency to everyone paying attention. They thought they were mapping your weaknesses. What they were actually doing was documenting proof that they were operating somewhere they could not follow. You cannot decode a frequency you have never transmitted, and everything they believed they had learned about you only confirmed how outmatched they already were. They set the stage for what they were certain was going to be your downfall. They had no idea they were walking into something that was going to change them forever, and you had no idea that the test was about to begin. The first ones came hard. They were not subtle about it. They wanted to see you react. They wanted the explosion, the public meltdown, the dramatic collapse of everything you had built. They pushed hard. They lied to people who mattered to you. They planted doubt inside your closest circles. They timed their strikes for the moments when you were already tired, already stretched thin, already wondering if you had anything left to give. And something happened that nobody in that camp expected. You bent, but you did not break. Do not let anyone minimize what that cost you. It was real pain. It was real loss. It involved real nights, sitting alone with the full weight of what close-range betrayal actually does to a human being. You are not made of stone, and that has never been your strength. Your strength is something different. Your strength is that you felt every single bit of what happened and refused to let it turn you into something uglier than what came at you. You did not retaliate, not because you lacked the ability. You did not retaliate because you were watching. You were processing. You were doing the one thing your enemies have never been able to do. You were asking yourself not just why it happened, but what it was revealing and what you were being called to grow through. And while you were sitting in that fire doing your internal work, something extraordinary was unfolding without your involvement, something you did not plan and did not ask for. The people who had been sent to damage you started coming back changed. Someone who was supposed to be your enemy reached out to you at some point after the dust had settled. You remember exactly the feeling of it, the surprise, the instinctive caution, the curiosity about what was being said. This person had been part of the plan against you, and yet there they were, struggling to find the words to describe what had happened when they got close to you. They said something had shifted inside them. They said that being in your proximity had cracked open questions they had been running from for a long time. They said they had left that encounter, unable to close something that had opened up in them. You were kind, you were discerning. You did not throw the door wide open, but you listened, and you sat quietly with what it meant. When someone directs sustained harmful energy toward a person whose frequency repels it, that energy does not simply disappear, it has nowhere to land, so it turns back toward the one who sent it. That first wave of people who came against you and then retreated came back quieter, smaller. Something had been drained from them that they could not name or replenish. They found out the hard way that throwing force at something immovable does not harm the wall, it harms the hand doing the throwing. Remember that, because the pattern is going to escalate before this story is done. If this resonates with your inner knowing, hype this video to help fellow chosen ones find their way here. There is a law operating in this world, not a belief, not a spiritual preference, but a law, as reliable and consistent as gravity. Everything carries a frequency. Every thought, every intention, every action taken from love, and every action taken from hatred, the emotion behind the move is encoded in the move itself, and things can only find a landing place where there is a matching vibration to receive them. Nobody taught you this directly, but you have been living proof of it for your entire life. Every attempt that was sent against you from a place of jealousy, revenge or bitterness was carrying the energy of the person who built it, contracted energy, fear energy, the energy of someone operating from scarcity and grievance. That energy traveled toward you, toward someone who had been through the fire and come out operating at an entirely different level and found nothing to hold on to, no match, no landing place. So it returned to its source, back to the person who generated it. You did not make that happen. The law made it happen. You only needed to remain yourself. But here is where it goes deeper. Your frequency does not only deflect what is sent against you, it also reveals when someone approaches you carrying a hidden agenda. Your energy creates a kind of quiet, unavoidable pressure that draws concealed things to the surface. Not because you pry, not because you interrogate anyone, simply because genuine grounded truth is incompatible with sustained deception in close proximity. Lies become heavy and visible in your presence. The people carrying them suddenly feel that weight in a way they were not feeling it before they got near you. This is why people confess things to you that they never intended to say. This is why carefully constructed plans unravel the moment they enter your atmosphere. This is why the ones who were sent to betray you end up instead reckoning with their own choices. Now let me tell you something precise about why spells have never been able to touch you, and understand that a spell is simply a concentrated intention of harm. It does not matter whether it arrives wrapped in ritual or wrapped in a carefully engineered lie, a planted rumor, or a calculated social attack. A spell needs a landing zone. It needs an open wound, an unresolved fear, a shadow that has been left unexamined and unattended. It needs somewhere specific to anchor itself, and your wounds have been tended. Not perfectly, not without leaving scars, but genuinely tended. You did the work. You faced what was uncomfortable. You closed the doors that used to swing open in moments of vulnerability. By doing that, you removed the targets. There is no open wound for a curse to locate. There is no unexamined shadow for a harmful intention to slip into and take root. Your enemies are carrying keys to locks that no longer exist inside you. They are standing outside a door that has been relocated because you grew, and the version of you that their attack was designed for has been completely outgrown. You are not just protected. Without even trying, you are a walking force of revelation, and someone very specific is about to discover exactly what that means. Chosen ones, they never expected this, and they really didn't expect us to keep talking. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels disappearing, videos pulled, voices scrubbed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, and now we have something they truly can't: silence. The technology used to suppress consciousness has been reverse-engineered, and Destiny Engine is the result. What was once used against humanity is now your ascension weapon. Join Destiny Engine, and you're supporting your favorite channels while leveling up yourself at the same time. It's a 360 win. You can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. Destiny Engine bypasses the conscious mind and rewrites the source code directly. Reality bends faster. Synchronicities stack. Your nervous system upgrades to a higher bandwidth. Put on headphones. Press play. That's all. For $1, you switch sides of history. Click the link in the description. The takeover is internal. While you have been healing, while you have been building, while the earlier waves of opposition have receded, and your life has finally settled into something resembling peace, there is someone who has not moved on. You already know this energy. You have felt it even when you could not name its source, that low, persistent hum of unresolved hostility running in the background of your life like a bass note underneath a song. You could not always locate exactly where it was coming from, but you always felt it. This person has been watching, collecting reports from the ones who came before them, and those reports have been strange, inconsistent, unsatisfying, full of gaps that nobody can account for. No one can provide a clean explanation of why the approach failed, why the plan dissolved, why you emerged from each encounter not just unharmed but somehow visibly stronger than before. That detail is what keeps everyone baffled. So this one is approaching you differently, more carefully, more deliberately. They have decided the others were careless and obvious. They are going to arrive through a door you would not expect, perhaps as someone returning with the soft language of nostalgia, or as someone who needs your guidance and approaches you with flattering specificity, or as someone waving something that looks like a genuine peace offering. They have studied the older version of you. They know that version responded to people who seemed to need something. They are betting you still do. They are wrong about what they are going to encounter, but they do not know that yet. What drives this person is a narrative so deeply entrenched in them that they have forgotten they wrote it themselves. In their version of events, you are the reason something precious was lost. A relationship, a sense of family, the loyalty of people who eventually chose distance over proximity to them. They did not examine their own behavior to explain those losses, because doing so would require a kind of courage they have not yet built. Instead, they needed a face to place on all that pain. They needed a villain, and they chose yours. A person who is genuinely thriving does not spend their private hours building a legal case against someone who already walked away from them. The obsession itself is the confession, the fact that they are still organizing, still recruiting, still adjusting the angle of approach. That is not strength. That is someone imprisoned inside a story that has quietly become their entire identity. And the painful irony is that the story centers around you, but you are not even in that chapter anymore. You left. They are still living there. This person is not arriving empty-handed. They have assembled a full approach, old stories reframed to favor them, new alliances with people who have their own reasons to want to see you stumble, and a plan with multiple layers designed to look like something other than what it is. There is also a gift involved, something small, something that appears generous, wrapped carefully in the appearance of goodwill. The approach has been rehearsed. The casual, reconciliatory tone has been practiced and refined, and underneath every single layer of that presentation something is rotting, because everything this plan is built from was constructed out of unhealed wounds. Every calculated step is soaked in the energy of resentment and blame, dressed up as righteousness, and that particular energy, the sustained energy of hatred performing itself as justice, is not a match for your frequency. When it gets close enough to you, the mismatch is going to be immediate and complete. Consider what happens when you force two magnets together at the wrong poles. They do not gently decline the connection. They repel each other, hard, fast, and with a force that is directly proportional to the strength of the magnets in play. You have been getting stronger this entire time. Now here is what you need to understand about that gift before the moment of contact arrives. It was not chosen out of genuine generosity. It was chosen through careful calculation, selected because it appeared to be something you could not refuse without seeming ungrateful or suspicious. Aimed at an older version of you, it might have worked, but your body is going to register the truth before your mind even finishes processing. You will feel something the moment that gift enters your space. An off note, a subtle wrongness with no logical explanation readily attached to it. In a previous season of your life, you might have overridden that feeling. You might have dismissed it as paranoia, or told yourself you were being unfair. You are not going to do that this time, because you understand now that the feeling is not paranoia. The feeling is data. It is your frequency, reading the frequency of what has just entered your proximity, and it is telling you the truth, exactly the way it has always told you the truth, in the way you have finally, fully learned to trust. They find a way in, maybe through a message you respond to out of curiosity, or reasonable caution, or a genuine desire to extend the benefit of the doubt. Maybe through a mutual person who unknowingly creates the opening. Maybe they simply appear somewhere you already are, and the meeting feels accidental and unchosen, the kind of thing you could easily dismiss as coincidence. It is not coincidence, and the moment they enter your proximity, you feel it, not as fear, because fear is not where you live anymore, but as recognition. It is the quiet internal knowing of someone who has learned to trust the very first signal. It is the instinct that has never lied to you, the one you used to override with logic and now, finally, let lead. You let them speak. You watch not with obvious suspicion, but with the full unhurried awareness of someone who reads everything, including what is not being said. You notice where the warmth in the eyes does not quite reach the voice. You notice the micro-hesitations. You notice the compliments that have been too specifically calibrated to your known values to be accidental. You notice the gift that appears with a casualness that clearly required a great deal of effort to construct, and something in you responds to all of it before your conscious mind has finished its analysis. You receive the gift. You do not perform gratitude. You do not close the distance being offered. You stay exactly where you are, which is exactly who you are, grounded, clear, and operating from a frequency that this visitor came completely unprepared to encounter. And then something begins to happen that ordinary social dynamics cannot explain. The rehearsed script starts feeling wrong in the actual moment of delivery. This is because the visitor prepared for the old version of you, someone with exposed wounds, defensiveness, and the reactive charge of a person still carrying unresolved things close to the surface. But that version of you is not in this room. The version that is in this room is not performing calm or suppressing something that might crack under the right kind of pressure. This version is simply, genuinely, completely settled inside the truth of who you are. And that settledness, that complete absence of the reaction that was needed for the plan to work, is the one thing the visitor built no counter-strategy for. So something begins to happen to them instead. They find themselves saying things they did not come to say. The ground shifts beneath the conversation because the ground they plan to stand on, your insecurity, your reactivity, your need to defend your reputation, simply does not exist here. Your energy does not confirm the story they brought with them. The person holding that story starts to feel its full weight in a way they were not feeling it before, because around most people, deception is easy to carry. It slides, it gets absorbed, it goes unchallenged. But in your presence, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes visible. It becomes unbearable. It becomes something they are suddenly, overwhelmingly conscious of in a way that makes them want to leave the room. They leave different from how they arrived. They cannot explain to anyone what actually happened. The report they carry back is incomplete and deeply unsatisfying. The plan did not execute. Again, and somewhere beneath the frustration and the bruised ego, the same internal cracking open that happened to everyone who came before them has now happened in them as well. Their reckoning has begun. and you did not do a single thing except be fully yourself. The people who were closest to your enemy, the ones who grew up near them, loved them from the inside, trusted them at close range, they have been seeing the truth too. They have been seeing it for a long time. Young people especially carry a clarity about these things that adults tend to override with social obligation and learned politeness. Young people do not perform comfort. They do not genuinely feel. They do not remain in proximity to an energy that makes their nervous system feel unsafe, simply because the social structure around them expects it. And the name that kept surfacing in those quiet, honest moments, the name your enemy cast as the villain in every story they told, your name kept appearing to those people as something completely different, something safe, something that affirmed their right to be themselves, that confirmed their instincts were trustworthy, that told them they were worthy of a life built on their own authentic terms. Maybe this came through your direct words, maybe through something you created or shared, maybe simply through the observable example of someone choosing to live with genuine integrity. This is something your enemy cannot forgive and cannot unknow. While they were carefully constructing the case against you, the people they most needed on their side were being quietly, undeniably affected by your frequency in the opposite direction. Your enemy could not control that outcome, because you cannot instruct someone to distrust what their own body is telling them. You cannot train someone to resent a presence that their nervous system already recognizes as honest. Your energy operates in people at a level that language cannot intercept and deliberate manipulation cannot override. The distance that has grown in your enemy's closest relationships is real, and instead of examining what their own repeated behavior created, they placed your name on the wound. That blame has become the deepest fuel for what drives them forward. But fuel that runs on blame instead of truth eventually burns through itself, and they are closer to running on empty than they realize. You are building. You are not scanning the horizon for the next attack. You are not spending your best hours mapping someone else's next move. You are not surviving. You are not defending territory. You are creating. You are pouring your energy into the life that is genuinely and entirely yours, into real relationships, into meaningful work, into the peace you have constructed deliberately and maintained through everything that tried to dismantle it. This is the dimension of being a chosen one that people on the outside never fully grasp. Your protection is not separate from your purpose. They are the same thing. When you are fully aligned with who you are and what you are here to do, when you are genuinely and actively living rather than reacting, you become untouchable, not as a side effect, but as a direct result. The alignment is the armor. The purpose is the fortress. The life you are committed to building is the field through which nothing contaminated can pass. Your enemy is spending their energy on you. You are spending your energy on your life. That is not a minor distinction. That is the entire distinction. That single difference is what determines, at the end of all of this, who is still standing and what they are standing inside of. The hostility helped you. Every time you were forced to stabilize yourself under pressure, your stability grew deeper. Every time an attack pushed you back to your foundation became more solid. Every attempt to shrink you gave you a new opportunity to discover that you could not actually be shrunk. You have been getting stronger inside the exact conditions they designed specifically to weaken you. They made you more powerful by devoting themselves to making you less powerful. There will be nothing satisfying about that realization for them, not a single thing. This is a point your enemies consistently misread. And every time they misread it, they step further into territory that costs them more than it has ever cost you. They interpret your refusal to engage with their chaos as confusion or weakness or an opening to press even harder. What they are actually encountering, and what they genuinely cannot categorize, is the composure of someone who knows exactly what is happening and has decided their energy is simply too valuable to spend engaging with it. That is not surrender, that is mastery. To anyone with even a fragment of genuine spiritual perception, that quality reads as something formidable, something ancient, something that has long since stopped needing to prove itself to anyone. That is exactly what your enemies mean when they tell each other that you seem like a supernatural curiosity. They are feeling the particular power of someone who has accomplished the one thing they themselves have never managed. You have genuinely mastered yourself. Your enemy has been working to reach you in ways you are not fully aware of. They have been trying to close the distances you put between yourself and them deliberately. They have been trying to reopen the pathways you shut down for good reason, and things keep failing in ways that defy any simple explanation. A connection goes unexpectedly silent at exactly the wrong moment for them. A carefully arranged plan loses a critical piece that cannot be replaced. An opening to reach you closes just before they can walk through it. They attribute all of this to misfortune. They do not possess the framework to understand what is actually happening, which is that the same force that has been on your side since before you even knew you needed anyone in your corner, the force that held you together on your hardest nights, that redirected what was aimed at you and turned your would-be destroyers into unwilling witnesses to your frequency, is not passive. It is not standing at a distance simply observing. It is actively, intelligently, specifically working on your behalf. You have never navigated any of this alone, not once. The evidence of that support is not always located in the dramatic, obvious moments. It lives in the small impossibilities, in the doors that remain closed without any visible hand holding them shut, in the connections that fail to form between your life and what was designed to contaminate it. Grace does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it looks like a malfunction. Sometimes it looks like inexplicable timing. Sometimes it simply looks like something that should logically have happened, not happening, for reasons nobody present can coherently point to. What makes this interference genuinely supernatural is its precision. It is not indiscriminate. The people who approach you with genuine intent, with real warmth, with honest energy, they find their way to you. The connection works. The timing aligns naturally. It is only the approach of something contaminated, only the advance of an intention that is misaligned with your well-being, that meets the wall. That is not random chance. That is something operating with a level of discernment that surpasses human calculation entirely. Your protection knows the difference between what is meant for you and what is simply aimed at you. And when you look back honestly across your entire life, you can identify the moments where this was already operating, even before you had words for it. The meeting that fell through for no clear reason. The person who never quite made it past the outer edge of your life, despite every logical indicator suggesting they should have. The opportunity that closed at a moment that felt like loss but later revealed itself to have been a redirection towards something far better suited to where you were actually going. Those were not failures. Those were something larger, saying not this one, not this path, not now. Something more aligned with your purpose was being preserved for you instead. Your life has been tended, not rigidly controlled, not managed like a program, but genuinely watched over, quietly, consistently, by something that holds a much longer view of your purpose than anyone plotting against you has ever possessed. What is coming for the person who refuses to stop is not going to arrive as a dramatic, visible, single event. It is going to be something quieter than that, and far more complete. It is going to be the accumulated consequence of a life organized around entirely the wrong mission. It is going to be the compounded cost of every relationship that was spent, every alliance that was burned, every person who was recruited into a campaign that kept failing, and in failing, kept exposing exactly what was at the center of it. The people surrounding your enemy are already making decisions, quiet decisions, the kind that do not get announced or explained. They are simply deciding, one by one, that the cost of staying close has exceeded anything they are receiving from it. That circle is contracting, not because of anything you did, because a life built on blame and unresolved bitterness eventually exhausts every person willing to keep absorbing the cost of being nearby. Every person who was recruited to come against you and instead encountered your frequency is now a witness that cannot be effectively used against you anymore. Something happened to each of them in your proximity. Whether they can name it clearly or not, something shifted permanently. That shift made it impossible for them to sustain the full intensity of the mission they were given. They came back changed, and changed people make unreliable instruments for someone else's agenda. The arsenal assembled against you has been quietly depleting itself through contact with you. Not all at once, but steadily, piece by piece. Each failed attempt returns something diminished to the one who sent it. Each person who comes back, unable to explain what happened, removes themselves, consciously or without fully realizing it, from active participation in what is being organized against you. You have been free this entire time. While your enemy has been building what they believed was a trap for you, they have been constructing the only confinement actually being built. The walls have been closing around them the whole time, not placed by you, not orchestrated by anyone visible, but assembled naturally through the compounding consequence of choosing hatred as a life's purpose and organizing an identity entirely around someone else's downfall. The law governing all of this is patient, and it does not miss. Every person sent to damage you came back changed, or did not come back at all. Every plan lost something essential in the execution. Every attempt returned to its origin, carrying the same energy that was sent, plus the added weight of failure. The story that was constructed to cast you as the villain has developed so many internal contradictions that even the people who most wanted to believe it can no longer hold it together coherently, and you are still here. Not just surviving, not just enduring, you are thriving. You are building something real. You are carrying more genuine internal peace than you have held in a long time. You are walking into rooms with that presence, that unnameable, inexplicable, otherworldly quality that people cannot explain and cannot stop looking at. You are living evidence of something your enemies have been unable to accept and equally unable to disprove. The supernatural curiosity they decided you were. They were not entirely wrong, but they called it a curiosity because they were observing it entirely from the outside, from the position of someone who does not carry it, cannot access it, and therefore cannot comprehend it. From where you stand, inside it, it is not a curiosity at all. It is simply who you are. It is the tested, refined, fire-forged, immovable version of who you have always been in the process of becoming. You are someone who has been pressed past the point where most people break, and came out not just intact but genuinely transformed. You are someone who turned every attempt to extinguish your light into additional fuel for it. You are someone who chose again and again, in moments of real pain and real temptation, to respond from the highest available version of yourself rather than react from the wound. That choice compounds over time. It accumulates into something that no external force can reach, because it was forged specifically by external force. The very thing that was used to try to break you became the material from which the unbreakable part of you was constructed. That is the great irony your enemies will never fully recover from having to confront. This is why the attempts keep failing. This is why the spells slide off and the plots dissolve, and the people sent to betray you end up reckoning with themselves instead of delivering on any mission given to them. It is all the same force operating. It is all the frequency of someone who walked through fire and came out carrying it, rather than being consumed by it. You do not have to fight for what has already been settled. You do not have to defend what has already been decided. You do not have to prove what is already plainly evident to every person with enough discernment to see it clearly. That presence, that frequency, that unnameable, otherworldly, impossible to categorize quality that makes people pause and look and wonder and sometimes quietly fear, that is not a performance. That is not something manufactured or switched on for effect. That is you, fully and completely. The chosen, tested, covered and purposeful you. It was decided before they ever made a plan, and nothing they do now or ever changes what was already decided about you.